we have shown that the 7 literal days of creation equal 7,000 years of the history of the earth, and that the creation week is a type and the antitype is the 7,000 years. The prophetic creation week is and has always been right on schedule. On the second day, God divided the waters from the waters, and on the 2,000th year, the flood came. On the 4th day, God created the sun, and Jesus Christ, the Son of Righteousness, came at the end of the 4,000th year. In the 6th year, God created man in his image, and at the end of the 6,000 years, the 144,000 will have the Father's name written in their foreheads, being recreated in God's image. And the Sabbath, the 7th day, will be the millennium, the 1,000 years of rest for the earth. Where are we in this timeline? Since Jesus came 2,000 years ago, we are right at the end of the 6,000th year, just before the beginning of the millennium. In the 4th commandment, God stated, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. And we have always understood this as applying to the literal 6-day week. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. There is no question that there is a weekly application of this commandment. But as the type always points to the antitype, then the weekly creation week points to the greater picture, which is the 6,000 years of Satan's work system from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the reward and punishment works system, which is the iniquity that was found in Lucifer when he rebelled against God's order of agape love. The Sabbath represents an age in which there are no works from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It represents God's kingdom of grace, which, according to Peter, will be a new heaven and a new earth where righteousness dwells. Embedded in the account of creation, there are further clues that help us understand the issues involved in the controversy between God and Satan. One of these clues is that after each day of creation, the words evening and morning are added. For instance, and the evening and the morning were the first day, or and the evening and the morning were the second day, and so forth. This pattern repeats itself until the 6th day, and one cannot help but notice that evening and morning are a mixture of light and darkness. When it comes to the 7th day, however, there is no mention of evening and morning. Is this significant? Or is it a mere oversight on Moses' part? That this is significant is evidenced by the fact that in the book of Revelation, when speaking of the new heavens and the new earth, the Revelator says that the gates of the New Jerusalem shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. The 7th day, being the Sabbath, or the rest of the Lord, points to the fact that in his kingdom there is no mixture of light and darkness. This then is the message which John heard of Jesus and declares unto us, that God is light and in him is no darkness at all. This harmonizes with the symbolism surrounding Jesus Christ, whose garments are as white as snow, whose principles are represented by the tree of life, a single principle, and who is also represented by the spotless Lamb. When God asks us to keep the 7th day holy, he is pointing us to something very important, that this day represents something that is clean, having no mixture of light and darkness, a day set apart from the rest of the week which contains that mixture of light and darkness, a mixture which makes it unholy, unclean. And related to this is the fact that there are no works involved in the Sabbath, but the 6 days of the week are related to works. These are the works of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is unholy and unclean, having a mixture of light and darkness, good and evil. Placed right at the center of the garden, at the center of the controversy between God and Satan, are the 2 trees which symbolize 2 separate types of government, based on 2 different principles and run by 2 different rulers. The Sabbath was given to mankind to help us differentiate between the ruler of the 6 days and the ruler of the 7th day. between the lowercase God of works and the true God of grace, the lowercase God of reward and punishment, and the true God of unconditional love. The prophet Isaiah is pointing to the 7th millennium when he says, "It shall come to pass in the day the Lord gives you rest from your sorrow, and from your fear, and from the hard bondage in which you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, How the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. He who struck the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he who ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and no one hinders." Throughout 6,000 years, Satan has struck the peoples of the earth in wrath with a continual stroke through his law of good and evil, and he ruled the nations in anger through the reward and punishment system. Isaiah goes on to say, "The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Indeed, the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, Since you were cut down, no woodsman has come up against us." The 6,000 years of Satan's rule reveal his character as a destroyer. The Sabbath reveals the character of God as a creator. The Sabbath is the culmination of the first 3 commandments, in which God is trying to tell us not to get him, the creator, confused with the destroyer. It is also meant to remind us of the promise that our good shepherd will guide his flock to a place of water. Here is water for drinking as well as green grass for pasturing. Once the flock arrives, they are free to rest after the long journey, a guided journey to a place of rest. And as Isaiah prophesied, there will be a sigh of rest. This is the meaning of the rest on the Sabbath. The earth will rest from Satan's work system because God's grace will reign on the earth, and God's grace is the path or the way of blessings. God blessed the Sabbath because in it he will present us the gift of life.